Would you like to make your shoulders pop for a legit, well-defined and impressive V-taper? You came to the right place. Yo, what's a crack? This video is going to be a part of a series on how to accentuate your V-taper look. Many people seem to have liked the one video I published a while ago on why impressive pull-up numbers might not necessarily equal a wide cobra looking back. But first, what's a V-taper? This is a look whereby the upper body takes on the shape of a V. This creates the visual illusion of a narrower waist, something social convention deems as an attractive feature for males. Alright, let's get genetics out of the way first to acknowledge the things we don't have control over, to then move on to the important stuff, the things that actually matter, the things you can actually change through training. Your predisposition to develop a V-taper look hinges upon three factors: your skeletal frame, your muscle insertions, and your body fat storage. The longer your collarbone is, the more likely you are to rock one of them V-tapers. The wider your hip bones are, the harder it is for you to have one. How your muscles attach to your bones also determine the shape of your deltoids. Finally, the more fat you store around your upper back and shoulders, the higher your chances to get the V-taper look. The more fat you store around the sides of your waist, the more difficult it is to create the visual illusion of a V. Those are three things you can change. These are the cards you've been dealt with. And it's good to be aware of these, but they shouldn't deter you from trying to achieve your goals. Some people might be able to rock an amazing looking V-taper from day one, and others might have to work really hard for many years just to get half as good of a result. Okay, what can we actually do then to accentuate a V-taper on whatever our parents gave us? A good starting point would be to focus on the two muscle groups that are the biggest contributors to the V shape: the latissimus dorsi and the deltoids. In today's video, I'm only going to focus on the latter. For the former, I'm going to refer to this video again. Or is it here? Perhaps you're preventing a huge chunk of muscle mass from growing effectively when you do pull-ups, so check it out. Like most things in fitness, a smart approach is always global and comprehensive, but let's focus on the two strategies that are likely to yield the best results. One, you will want to get stronger in a few compound lifts where your shoulders are the primary movers or are heavily engaged, and two, you would want to include a variety of smaller exercises that would cause hypertrophy in all the three heads of your deltoids, especially the medial heads, the one on the side. These two methodologies running simultaneously could and most likely will reinforce each other when implemented correctly. When it comes to performance, there is a positive yet imperfect correlation between size and strength. There could be many outliers out there, of course, but the vast majority of recreational lifters are unlikely to show off an impressive shoulder development unless they reach a bare minimum level of upper body pressing strength. I'm going to give you some general standards in popular time-tested compound lifts so that you have quantifiable goals to aim for. Additionally, these numbers are for 10 repetitions rather than your typical 1 rep max. Working towards a 10 rep max will force you to train within a more moderate intensity range, which could be more hypertrophy friendly from a practical standpoint. And for the sake of simplification, these strength standards use either a barbell or your own body weight. We could be more flexible on equipment when we'll look at the hypertrophy side of things later on in the video. And remember, these numbers should only be seen as ballparks. There's nothing set in stone here. When it comes to developing shoulder strength, this lift should be your first option to consider and the one to prioritize during your workouts. I'm talking about the press, the overhead press, the military press, or whatever you want to call it. The OHP is an exercise that tests your vertical pressing strength. Training this movement at least twice per week is a great starting point for anyone who wants to develop bigger shoulders. One of the best things you can do for growth in the shoulder area is to establish a baseline of vertical pressing strength with the OHP. If you still can't perform 10 repetitions full range of motion with 40 kg, this could be a reasonable goal for you to shoot for in the next few months. Other lifts would round out your upper body pressing strength in the context of a general strength program. These two are not shoulder specific per se, like the OHP is, but I believe the bench press or the dip could complement the OHP very nicely, especially for the hypertrophy of the anterior side of the deltoid. For the flat bench press with the barbell, striving to complete 10 controlled full range of motion repetitions with 135 to 150 pounds would be a good starting point. As for the parallel bar dip, you would want to complete at least 10 reps with an additional 5% of your body weight as external resistance if you weigh under 75 kg. Above that point, up to 85 kg, the goal would be to do 10 dips in a row with just your own body weight. As for pulling movements, you'll be training other functions of the shoulder muscle group, namely extension and horizontal abduction. Strength standards will be harder to uphold given how easy it is to cheat with momentum doing rowing or pulling movements. However, I would still suggest a couple of well-known compound lifts that would hit your rear delt pretty hard. Strict pull-ups with scapular retraction at the top and rowing movements with a slightly wider grip are never going to let you down in terms of overall back development. And in the process, your rear delts will get pretty compelling incentives to grow as well. Basically, every movement that brings your elbows behind your back line would train these functions and therefore target the backside of your shoulders. Pick one movement that overloads a vertical pull and one that trains a horizontal pull, and then get much stronger at those. And again, if all these numbers seem far-fetched to you right now, these might be one of the reasons why you lack Boulder shoulders. And that's okay, there is nothing wrong with being a beginner, unless you're an exceptional specimen of a human. Almost everyone starts as a beginner in this fitness journey. And if that's you, getting much stronger in all of these lifts would be a smart endeavor to pursue in order to grow the type of shoulders that would help you pull off a V-taper look. Now, these numbers are by no means the end of the journey or a 100% guarantee for your aesthetic goals. They are rather a first step to work towards. By chasing similar numbers in these compound lifts, you'll be avoiding one of the biggest mistakes beginners make in their first years of training, which is to not set quantifiable targets. If you were to ask most people at commercial gyms what their goal or goals are, they would say something like to feel better, or to get stronger, to get bigger, or to be more athletic, and so on and so forth. All these are meaningless statements people tell others to justify their gym membership and make them feel like they have a purpose. That's why most people are still beginners despite going to the gym for years. No goals means no gains. And look, the options I'm offering you in this video are far from perfect, I acknowledge that. But they're still way better than having the goal of getting stronger or getting bigger. What the hell does this even mean? Besides, goals are an incentive to work consistently on specific movements for months. Working towards those goals will require for you to track your workouts. That way you know for sure that you are making progress. Progression will increase the demand imposed on your muscles, and as a result, your effort will have to meet the ever-increasing higher demands, which in turn will force you into situations where you'll get close to muscular failure. And without these three components in place, that is consistency, progression, and proximity to failure, you will not build significant amount of muscle mass as a natural lifter long term. And this is the perfect segue to the next section, which is more focused on isolation and more traditional bodybuilding type of parameters. At this point, we need to explore other smaller movements that are going to tackle the area that is likely to be overlooked with a compound lift only approach. That's why you would want to use specific type of exercises to isolate the medial head of the deltoid. In fact, when it comes to aesthetics, it makes sense that bodybuilders are extremely invested in developing this muscle head, as it would further enhance their shoulder to waist ratio. We should take a leaf out of their training book if your actual goal is a V-taper. My favorite 3 isolation movements to overload the medial head of the deltoid are the traditional side delt raises with dumbbells, Egyptian cable raises, and Lou raises. Let me give you an example on how I do it. These 3 isolation exercises are really boring for me, so in order to make sure that I don't skip them, I sneak them in wherever I can. Lately, I've been doing them right after squats or leg presses. There is no muscle overlap between these 2 movements, so they work perfectly fine. I must stress how important it is to not be lazy with this type of unsexy movements when your goal is to enhance the V-taper look. Make sure you do them very frequently, at least 3 times per week, complete more volume with ever-increasing loads, and reach very uncomfortable levels of muscular fatigue. Although the big compound lifts that I previously mentioned in this video are going to give you the most bang for your buck in terms of overall muscle building potential, it'd be wise to include other movements for better and more sustainable shoulder growth. In the multi-joint department, I'm thinking about a military press with dumbbells or an Arnold press. These two would be great additions to any good specialized program for shoulder growth. Another fantastic addition, and one that is honestly not talked about enough on social media, would be any heavy compound lift that would create a major loaded stretch on your shoulders. I'm thinking about hip hinges of any kind. Conventional, sumo, off blocks, Romanian, it doesn't matter. I personally enjoy hip hinges with a snatch grip for an extra kick on the rear delts, but really any exercise you can load greatly would impose tremendous mechanical tension on your deltoid muscle group as a whole. In the isolation realm, cable or machine reverse flies as well as face pulls would ensure that the often overlooked backside of your deltoids gets the love it deserves. All of these overload shoulder horizontal abduction, but face pulls have the bonus of adding external rotation. As I said before, these kind of small movements are the ones that you want to keep adding to your regular sets every time you're in the gym. If you're benching, superset it with a rear delt machine. If you're doing dips, perform face pulls right after. And if you're training squats, why don't you go ahead and use your rest time to complete a set of Egyptian raises? I really hope that this video has given you broad guidelines and directions as to what things to spend your time on in the gym if your goal is to build bigger and bolder shoulders that would enhance your V-taper look. Check out these two videos, I think you're gonna like them. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to pick all when you click on the bell to get notified every time a new video goes live. Stay fit, stay strong, peace.